Hi, hello, and welcome to yet another expat. This is episode 66. I am recording right in the middle of the summer with the sun finally out. It could last anything between 5 minutes and a few hours. Let's see. But I hope you're doing great. Unlike me, I'm still coughing since last week, since 2 weeks. I've been sick for quite some time, and the doctors here in Germany seem to not care. They told me to sleep off for a few days, which I did, but it's not helping. But like a great teacher of mine said when we didn't hand in our homework, don't make your problems my problems. I will not make my problems your problems. And I will go into the first random news I read, and I thought of all of us. There's a new trend. It's coming from China, and this is proving that adulthood could be overrated. They are back to having pacifiers. Adult-sized pacifiers. Yes, grown-up people are doing that in China. People who can, vote and pay taxes, run companies. They are now all sucking on these giant baby nipples to cope with stress, with anxiety, with insomnia, even to quit smoking. So this is the new trend now, having adult-sized pacifiers. It looks completely ridiculous. But why waste money on therapy when you can be chewing on a piece of silicone to bring some life-changing? And now you will ask, okay, how much does it cost? Maybe I get one. They start from about €1 and they go all the way up to €70, which is still cheaper than therapy. But this is a thing. It's happening. I know how I told you a few episodes ago, if you get very stressed, just remember, close your mouth. Push your tongue up the ceiling of your mouth. Keep it there. Keep it pushing. You will feel your mouth relax. This was such a subtle way of calming you down, right? This was so much more discreet than having a huge thing dangling from your mouth. But it's a trend. Maybe it comes. Maybe not. Maybe you bring it. I'm certainly not bringing it. We don't have a pacifier for our baby, and not yet for ourselves. But psychologists call this whole thing a regression phenomenon. Basically, that's a fancy way of saying, hey, remember when life was simple? Your biggest worry was nap time and your parents did all of the stressful adulting for you? Let's pretend we're back there. Put this thing in your mouth. And honestly, I don't know, who can blame anyone? Life is hard. Bills and bosses and existential dread and yeah, sometimes maybe a giant pacifier could be the only logical escape. But before you rush there to go buy one, let's talk a bit about the consequences. Health experts warn that the prolonged use can lead to dental misalignment, jaw problems, and even choking or breathing risks if you do it while sleeping. So don't do it while sleeping, yeah? So if you do it, you're kind of hiding from stress and increasing your dentist bill. What do you think about that? Should we quickly rush and open a small pop-up store that gives adult-sized pacifiers, put it next to the Labubu one in Alexa in Mitte, and have 2 lines for the adult children adults? I'm just throwing ideas out there. Of course, social media is helping spread this trend a lot, like a comforting but slightly terrifying thing. It's already on TikTok. It will cross the lands and slowly find its way to Europe, I'm sure for that. So there it is, now you know it. This could be a thing. Thanks for tuning in to listen to yet another expat. I am Hermes. This is a podcast where I bring thoughts, news, random stuff almost every week. I say this now and not in the beginning because I try to put a strong hook with the pacifier just to keep some new people going. I know my intros can be big, but now that we're past that, just wanted to say I love having you here. As a Greek living in Berlin, let's do a little bit of Greece, a little bit of Berlin. Now, Greece is great for swimming and great for fires. At this period, a lot of people are asking me how I feel about the fires. The sad reality is almost every Greek is getting used to this because it's been the same year in, year out. I will just give you two interesting facts to keep with you. One is that in October 2024, the seasonal firefighters were left without contracts. This is something I reported back in episode 33. That episode had the beautiful title, Street Food Gloves, because people take money and still make food with the same gloves, ancient viruses and on-demand firefighters, which is what the ministry has been trying to do in Greece. And this is where I was explaining how in Greece we don't like to have firefighters all year round. We have this concept of seasonal firefighters that only get hired for half the year, which means that they cannot do the preventive work the months that there are no fires and all of that. It's a completely reactive system, but keep this. Over 600 experienced seasonal firefighters were left without renewed contracts under the minister Vasilis Kikis. He's an ex-basketball player, so he must know what he's doing. And that sparked protests in November 2024. Some firefighters staged a sit-in at the Ministry of Civil Protection. So they just sat there saying, hey, we should be employed. Why are you firing firefighters? And then the police beat them up. So this is one point of how firefighters are treated. The second one to know is that Greek firefighters do not even receive hazardous duty pay for their dangerous work. So this is a concept when you are dealing with hazardous materials, if you are in garbage collection, if you are in any heavy work, you get extra money usually. And firefighters don't get that in Greece, even though they breathe some of the most dangerous chemicals because of the nature of their work. So hey, we only are gonna hire you for a few months in which you go and give your life, get exposed daily to fire and life-threatening situations. We will not give you a hazardous duty pay. And meanwhile, the employees of the Greek parliament, they work office jobs, they were granted retroactively these hazardous duty allowances, up to 4,000 euros. This is of course a decision that has sparked public criticism over fairness and recognition. The airplanes are the Canadairs from the 70s. These are 55-year-old planes that try to grab water and throw it in the fires. And because they have not done anything to make that flee of firefighting means better, then they make the army bring these huge, the Chinook helicopters, these huge battlefield type of helicopters that try to go and pick up water and throw it, which is a bit ridiculous because the cost per flight for these humongous military planes and helicopters is so expensive that they could have just used that money to make an actual firefighting flee in Greece. So this is what's going on with fires. We have a lot, but no one gives firefighters the credit they deserve, the salary they deserve, the employment security they deserve, the extra benefits for the hazardous work they deserve, and the means, whether that is things on the ground or in the air, to do their job in a proactive way. But let's make things a little bit more fun. Let's jump into Berlin for one piece of news, because starting this Friday, August 15, in the Tempelhof airport, the old fire station will become a new cultural venue. So I don't know how Berlin is doing with fires. I'm pretty sure that they have a new fire station in order for the old fire station to become a club. But this is what's happening. It will be a club for 2 months, hosting performances and workshops and club nights. There is a diverse program that has been planned and is out there already, with several collectives, each hosting their own nights during this trial run. This will last until October 18th. This is a model project run by the Berlin Club Commission, and they put out an open call. They received 216 applications from different collectives, and 6 were selected. The events will range from Latin American music to performance art and electronic music. Tempelhof is Berlin's largest public space and building, so Make sure to check that out. There must be at least one thing that's interesting for you, and then you get to see how that huge old fire station at Tempelhof Airport will be turned into this new cultural venue. Now, what about the rest of the world? What's happening there? Well, if you thought international diplomacy couldn't get more surreal, the Alaska thing happened, where Donald Trump, in what he apparently called a meeting with Vladimir Putin, applauded him. Yes, he clapped for him like he was at a Broadway show, and then he rolled a red carpet for him. The carpet was rolled by US soldiers that were kneeling down, because apparently America's finest exists to honor foreign dictators, but that was such a weird one to show. But yes, there is no better way to legitimize a war criminal. The whole thing was so ridiculous. First of all, Trump said that he's meeting him in Russia. He said this on live TV. It's not Russia, it's Alaska, which is part of the US. Then when he arrives, Trump starts applauding him. He brings him a gift, a statue for his desk. He puts the US soldiers down on their knees, rolling a red carpet. Then he does a show with planes, doing a flyover to honor him. This is part of honoring someone. Then he even gave him a lift with the presidential armor car, just so he gets to see it and drive around like two old besties, you know? So it's no surprise to anyone that this was a huge fail or a win in terms of legitimizing his presence and even giving him prestige, which is something he had lost. But we live in interesting times where the US soldiers are rolling out the red carpet for a war criminal that has been murdering civilians and kidnapping children and basically glorifying a criminal. And of course, there were zero outcomes. Not even a ceasefire, not even a date for a new meeting, no sanctions, not even a polite handshake agreement, nothing. So all of that, a meeting with the red carpet and flyovers and motorside joe rides together for no agreement. This seems to be peak diplomacy. They both seemed very happy when they left. I'm not sure what Trump thinks he achieved over this, but Putin definitely knows that he bought himself more time, no sanctions, not one step back from everything he wants to achieve. Oh, and here's the last thing. The US mission forgot papers about the whole super duper secure meeting in a hotel printer. So they used one of the hotels nearby, you know, the business lounge of a hotel where you can go and work and print stuff. And they left stuff in the printer. Like seriously, they left the schedule. They said in a press conference that they only left the menu for the food. But that's such a lie. The documents they left, they actually have names and phone numbers of US and Russian delegates and more, which is insane to think of at the level that they operate in, that they are so sloppy and so amateur. Like, this is something you don't do at school. This is something you don't even do at a company. This is something you wouldn't do if you were just in the army of the same country. And now we're talking about meeting on US soil between Russia and the US, and part of the plan is left in a printer in a hotel. But this is it. This is the level of competence that seems to be defining so much of the fate of the world right now. This is the scenario we are in. This is our version of reality. And I'm afraid that the last piece of news I have is also not ideal. It has to do with climate science. And I don't know if you saw how Trump fired the guy who was reporting the numbers on unemployment in the US because he didn't like the numbers. This is a true fact. Now he's continuing. I don't like these numbers. What can I do about them? So let's talk climate science, or as the government currently sees it, science, but make it more convenient. Here's what's going on. The Trump administration wants to shut down two NASA satellites. They're called OCO2 and OCO3 that measure carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. The gas that's basically the bad ex-boyfriend of planet Earth, the one that keeps showing up, suffocating us and refusing to leave. Now, these satellites, They aren't broken. In fact, they work perfect. They are still the most precise tools that the scientists have to measure CO2 levels. But not only that, they can measure plant health at the planet scale. They can measure the risk for droughts. They can measure all sorts of very useful things on climate. And they are literally giving us a front row seat on how the planet is doing. And spoiler, the planet is not doing so great. So why pull the plug? Well, because apparently Trump doesn't like the numbers. And when the numbers are inconvenient, you don't fix the problem, you kill the messenger. This is the coal mine canary situation. You know how in the coal mines they used to have the canaries, and if dangerous gases were leaked, the canaries would die first, and then people would know to just run? Well, except of listening the warning, they're basically strangling the canary and saying, "No bird, no problem." And this is where it gets extra fun because comedy is writing itself. I don't need to do anything. The man Trump has tapped to lead this little end of the science mission project is his acting NASA administrator, a guy called Sean Duffy. You might remember him because previously he had the role of the Secretary of Transportation. You know, he was the guy in charge when the planes were metaphorically and sometimes literally falling out of the sky. If you haven't followed the craziness of the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, it's the agency in the US that is responsible for overseeing all aspects of civil aviation. You know, the ones that ensure safety of air travel by setting the standards and doing air traffic control. Well, it's not good. And who better to oversee NASA than the person who managed to make this air travel chaos? So let's see what happens. The scientist community is going nuts over this completely illogical decision to decommission working satellites that are providing valuable data just because it doesn't fit the narrative. So this is the recap. Instead of confronting climate change, the US is actively blinding itself to it. And they've put the person to make it happen, a person whose resume reads like a how-to manual for ignoring safety warnings. It's almost poetic. It's like the guy who didn't want to hear about failing planes is now making sure we can't hear about a failing planet. If it wasn't so terrifying, it'd be a comedy sketch. I guess that it is. This is today's America, everyone. I will wrap it here. Thank you so much for listening. I know I don't have the most energized version of myself, but I'm still sick. I'm still coughing. I hope I'll find what it is and kill it once and for all. Keep your thoughts and prayers to me. A huge thanks to Polly for gifting me a garlic press that cleans itself. Now, Polly is one of the greatest listeners of this podcast. In an episode long time ago, I complained about how the garlic press is not a finished product because you still need to clean it so ridiculously, annoyingly, like it's a half-made product. They never finished it. And Polly found this insane garlic press that has a weird switch and a weird click, and it cleans itself. It pushes out the garlic completely. And I need to do a full product review of it once I take it out of the suitcase, because the suitcase has been 2 weeks on the side of the bed behind me ever since we came back from Denmark. Because once you have a child and work and life, priorities really change. Maybe that suitcase stays there forever until I need to make a suitcase again. But every now and then I take something out of it. So in the current pace, I would guess in a few months the suitcase will get empty. I will let you go now. I hope you don't have any fires around you. If things get tough, remember, you can always grab a pacifier and put it in your mouth. If you find yourself in Berlin, you can try the new cultural venue at Tempelhof Old Fire Station. If you are in Greece, you can go to any fire station to see all the firefighters that they have fired. If you don't want any fires, I guess you have to go to Alaska. But you need to be careful because the ICE, the Anti-Immigration Service, could put you in jail because it is US land. Unless you are a war criminal, then they will put out the red carpet for you. And next time you see something falling from the sky, Let's all hope it's not one of the climate satellites they decided to kill. I was me, you were you. Huge thanks for listening for one more week. Ciao!